Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. I just woke up from a nap that I was looking forward to the entire day at work, and now I think I messed up my sleep schedule for the next 5 to 10 business days. But it was so worth it. Nothing hits better than a good post work, but still pre-night sleep nap, and nobody can convince me otherwise. So, since I woke up just now and basically won't be able to go to sleep for God knows how long, I thought I'd chat with you for a bit here. I would like to start on a more positive note because I know I can be a complainer sometimes. Well, most of the times. Well, usually. So let's switch the narrative. So this week, I got so much reassurance about the podcast, and I would just like to share my joy with you. First of all, recently, I made this new friend, and when I told her about the podcast, she was super excited and super surprised, and she actually started listening to my episodes immediately, which I think is super cute. And after listening to my newest episode, she texted me to tell me that she really enjoyed it and that she thought brace yourselves, that I have the same vibe as Emma Chamberlain. Which, honestly, that made my day. Like, it even made my week. This compliment is my new personality for the next 2 months, and nobody can take that away from me. However, I need to be really transparent with you. I was never a big Emma watcher. I know, I deserve jail. Like, why even go on YouTube if you're not going to watch one of the most successful YouTubers? And to be honest, I don't know why I wasn't an Emma stan. I think I just wasn't on that side of YouTube. I have seen a handful of Emma's videos on YouTube and I did enjoy them, but I didn't necessarily follow her YouTube career closely. If I had to choose one YouTuber who I watched in that era of YouTube, like the vlogging and the era of the YouTubers, for me that would be Liza Koshy. The other day I got recommended a video of hers that came out 7 years ago, and I immediately clicked on it, just by habit, I guess, because some habits never die. And that was an interesting experience. Because seeing her videos now compared to when I first saw them is two different worlds. It's two different versions of me. And it was just so fascinating to see how my perception of her videos has changed. First of all, now that I'm grown, I definitely notice the jokes which flew over my head when I was first watching them. And what is even more fascinating about rewatching those videos is the feeling they brought back. And just seeing her skits and listening to her jokes, it brought back so many memories from that era of my life and that era of the internet. And I felt such a weird feeling. Like, I cannot even explain it. Like, even the fact that it was from 7 years ago made me feel extremely old. And I cannot believe I grew up watching this girl, and now I am basically the age she was when she was making those videos, which is such a crazy concept. And the other day when I went to something which resembles very much what I would imagine a dollar store is like, so I went there and Liza Koshy was the only person I could think of. And in my head, I was making these extremely stupid and cheesy dad joke type of puns about everything I saw because Liza Koshy raised me. She single-handedly formed that joker in me. And I'm so thankful for that because I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks. I love dad jokes. I find them hilarious. I find them extremely witty. And yeah, Wednesdays with Liza. It feels like a lifetime ago, yet it also feels like it was yesterday. But still, even though I'm a Liza girl to my bones, I very much appreciate a compliment my friend gave to me because even though I didn't grow up watching Emma on YouTube, I had a period of time in which I binged listened to her podcast. And Emma has a very particular sound to herself. And to be compared to her is it's such a humbling experience. It's such a humbling thing because I only wish I could articulate myself as good and feel as free in front of the microphone as she does. But I guess practice makes perfect. Actually, guys, let me just quickly mention, I do feel far more comfortable about recording now than when I first started. And it has only been like, 4 months? Wait, it's already been 4 months? What the hell? Okay, so yeah, it's been 4 months and I still notice a significant change in my confidence when I record. Even though I haven't changed my work environment or the ways in which I record. I'm definitely sure that just by the sound of this, you can tell that I'm still recording on my bedroom floor on my phone. But I feel comfortable now. I don't even need alcohol in order to record anymore. And for the first 2 or 3 episodes, I don't remember like how many episodes I recorded like this, but I would take a shot or would be drinking something throughout the recording session just to take the edge off, just to feel comfortable enough to start talking. But now I don't need to do this. Now I just press record and start talking and feel more comfortable than ever. Which I think is why I'm enjoying doing this as much as I am. So that is a big win on my side. Like, not to brag or anything, but such a slay. So to that friend, thank you for this amazing compliment. And I feel extremely overjoyed with it. Another really cool thing which happened with relation to the podcast this week is when I went out with my housemate and some of her friends. And one of those friends was the person who lived in my room when I was on exchange in the UK. And that person and I, we're not close friends or anything. Like, we don't know each other. Like, we just say hi. But what happened was such a special thing for me. And I don't even know if they realize how important it was to me. So we were having a conversation as a group about the concerts we've been to and what our dream concert would be. And that person who used to live in my room chimed in with a reference from my Harry Styles episode. And later they also mentioned something else from the podcast, which I don't remember what, but they made another reference. And that is the single coolest thing that has ever happened to me. Because it means that this person listens to my podcast. So if you're listening to this episode as well, shout out to you. That was genuinely so cute and such a reassuring moment because I don't know who listens. And if I'm being honest with you, I barely get a few listens to any of my episodes. So I'm not counting that I would go somewhere and there would be a Dirty Martini follower. And that was just extremely cute. It is so interesting when you come to the realization that you're being perceived. And I have to admit, it is also a very scary realization to come to. Because yes, I come in here every week, I talk my talk and do my thing, but I'm not doing numbers here on Spotify, and I never expect to meet someone who listens. I mean, yes, I always say that my mom listens, but my mom listens from my Spotify account because she doesn't have one. So Spotify doesn't even register it as a listen. And yeah, just like this interaction we had when they made references to my episodes and that were like niche references, it was such a cool moment for me. It was a bit of a reality call that also what I'm doing here is wildly available to anyone, which is terrifying and could and most likely will have its consequences, but I'm choosing to look at it on the bright side and see it as the idea that someone is interested in what I have to say instead of someone hate or gossip listening. But like, even if they were hate or gossip listening, a listen is a listen. Oh my god, guys, I finally remembered something. This thing that I'm about to share with you happened more than a month ago. And the second it happened, I was like, that's it. I need to tell this on the podcast. And for whatever reason, every time I press record, this story magically disappears from my head as if it had never happened. So I literally had to write it down in my notes app and set a reminder so that I don't forget it, because it was, for me, one of the most glitch in the matrix moments of my life. So far, I mean. So let's go back to a month ago. The weather was really nice. That's how you know it's not happening now and it's not something recent. So anyways, the weather was really nice and I was super fed up with writing my thesis. So I decided to go out to the lake that is next to my place and just read a book. By the way, I was rereading To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and I'm so happy I reread that book. I want to watch the movie as well, but if it isn't as good as the book, I would be super disappointed. I really hate it when movies are when they're not a just adaptation of the story they're trying to portray. Like, of course, I realize very well that you cannot include everything, but in a book, there are so many subtleties, and so much, for example, thought process that's going on behind the scenes that can be difficultly captured in movies. So, yeah, I'm a bit iffy when it comes to movie adaptations of books, and I have very high standards, which means that I'm more often than not disappointed. So another thing that's pissing me off is that when I'm imagining a character in one way and then the actor who plays that character does not fit my imagined character, which is totally fine. Like, it is a totally me problem, and it is by no means the actor's fault that they don't look the way I imagine them to look. When you think about it, a movie adaptation of a book is just the visual representation of the director's imagination. So that's really interesting. And here is me just saying the most obvious thing as if it's something groundbreaking, but like, what's new? Basically, movies present us with not a singular, because it's a teamwork, but like, yeah, singular in that sense. Singular as in the interpretation of a particular team, a particular selection of people. So movies present us with a singular interpretation of what should be included and also how it should be included. And I think this is just fascinating. So back to Kill a Mockingbird. I have to admit, I only read that book when I was in my late teens for the first time. To be honest, I don't think it's necessarily popular in Bulgaria with the youth, or at least my generation is what I mean. And that is super interesting because, for example, in the United States, because the book is written by Harper Lee, who is an American writer, and obviously, if you've read the book and you know the story, you know that it takes place in the US. So it is absolutely natural that it's more popular there, and it is also studied in schools. And I think that even though we don't study it in Bulgaria, and I think we don't necessarily study it because we don't have history with slavery the way the US does. So it's not necessarily relevant to our history and our culture. But that being said, I still think that it should be definitely classified as a must read. I have to admit that I was initially very opposed to reading it, and I didn't even know what it was about. Like, I was just opposed to reading it when I first came across it, and that is because I was in the pick-me-est of pick-me stages, and I had told myself, and I'll just listen to this and tell me how ridiculous it sounds. I have told myself that because I'm not like the others, I will not be reading any books or watch any movies that are considered classic. Let that sink in. Let that stupidity sink in. I was literally, purposefully, single-handedly depriving myself of some of the best storytelling that has ever been created. And for what? To be different? Honey, that is not the type of person you want to be. That is not the type of persona you want to embody. Get a grip of yourself, Martina. You won't get bonus points for not having read Tolstoy. You can actually just embarrass yourself. Anyways, I am glad that I overcame this phase of my life because I came to realize that there is a reason those books and movies are considered a classic. And there is a reason they should be read and watched. Because they're that good. And avoiding them doesn't make me special in any way, shape, or form. So basically, this is a PSA to everyone who might be in the same stage that I was stuck in for quite some time, like longer than I would like to admit, like a few years ago. This is a PSA. Trust me, it is not worth it. Just go out there and explore new things and explore things which others enjoy and just enjoy life and don't care about being picked, care about nurturing yourself. And that's not me talking only about books and movies, by the way. This is just a general life lesson, which I wish I could, give myself, give my 16-year-old self. She definitely needed to hear this. But, to be honest, if I could go back and tell this to myself, I wouldn't listen. So, I guess it had to happen for me to come to this realization that being a pick-me is just not it. And I am ashamed of the pick-me tendencies I had. But thank God I realized how detrimental they are to my development as a person. So I kind of eradicated them. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, my story that I have been trying to tell you for the past month. I got a bit off track, sorry. I guess the universe is just so opposed to me telling it. So let me just quickly give it to you while I still remember why I pressed record today. So I took my picnic blanket and sat myself next to the lake that is close to where I live. And it was such a calm experience and such an uncalm time of my life. And it was calm in the sense that I was totally by myself in the entire, let's call it a park, even though it's not necessarily a park. But then 3 men came, 2 younger, like around their late 30s, and then one older one who was at least 60, and they just dropped their things and started fishing. Now, they had the entire park, the entire lake to themselves. And I fully don't understand why they decided to sit exactly 5 meters away from where I was, but they did. And I wasn't thinking anything of it, but they were so close that I could hear their conversations. And I was reading my book, so I wasn't necessarily focused on listening to their conversations because I also thought, oh, they must be Dutch either way. There's no gossip for me to eavesdrop on. But then they started talking louder and louder, and I couldn't help but overhear because at this rate, it was like as if they were sitting on the blanket right next to me. And I just want you to imagine the shock I felt when I heard them speaking in Bulgarian. That was such a weird moment because when you're abroad, you never expect to hear someone speaking your language. And the first time you hear it, you don't necessarily recognize that it's something abnormal because you're so used to hearing that language. But then a few moments later, it hits you that you're not supposed to be hearing that language, considering where you are. And it is just so weird and like such a glitch in the matrix. Especially when we consider that I do not live in a city that is necessarily popular or necessarily known outside of the Netherlands. Basically, in my 3 years of living here, I have met probably a total of 4 Bulgarians. So I never expect to hear someone speak my language. And to be honest with you, I did consider going up to them and saying hi, because that would have been a hilarious interaction because, well, I mean, what are the chances? Well, apparently big enough. But then I realized those are literally 3 strangers. And at a certain point, I would love to go back home and I would love for them not to see where I live because, well, that's just unsafe. Even it doesn't matter that we're from the same country, it is unsafe. And also another thing, my initial, oh my God, Bulgarians, quickly wore off. So I stuck to my own usual procedure. I just pretended that I didn't understand what they were talking about. Now, I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird in Bulgarian, and that could have immediately gave it away, but I just had the title page, because I'm smart like this. And then we're all doing our thing, and 4 other men, and maybe, like one maybe 11 or 12-year-old guy joined them. All of them Bulgarian as well. And I was starting to think, I need to get out of here. Not necessarily because they were Bulgarian, but because it was 10 strangers, all of whom men, who sat right next to me. And that is just not the vibe I live for. But then, so that second group of men joins, and they are doing small chit chat, and they ask the first group if there's any fish and if they caught something. By the way, at this point, I wasn't reading at all. I was just pretending to, like every now and then just turning the page, because I was fully listening to their conversations. Like, how could I not? And then someone from the first group of men said, no, there hasn't been any fish yet. And then the 60-something-year-old said, but the real catch is over here. And he pointed at me, thinking that I'm not paying any attention. And also thinking that I'm not speaking the language. Nobody else from the men reacted in any way when that creep said that, which I'm extremely thankful about. Like, I'm not grateful about him saying it. I'm grateful that the other men didn't react. Let me just be clear. Because when I heard him say this, I felt like, honestly, throwing up. That was so disgusting. Sir, you could be my grandfather, and you're saying that I'm a catch? Which, no lies detected, but still, ew. Like, just shut up and keep it in your pants. That was the moment I was convinced I was definitely not going to go up to them and talk, but I was going to prove to them that sometimes it is better to shut your mouth, because some things should have just been left a thought. So I start collecting my things, and at the same time, I call my dad on the phone. And well, my dad and we talk to each other in Bulgarian, obviously. So he picks up, and I start talking, hi dad, how are you, blah, 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 blah. And the old man who said I'm a catch was flabbergasted, to say the least. That man froze, and his jaw nearly hit the floor. So I start talking about my experience as I am still there in front of them, because I am a drama queen. What can I say? And then I just leave and see them all visibly confused. But that's what they get. When they go low, I go lower. Like, how entitled and at the same time, how stupid do you have to be to talk about a stranger that way? And I know they weren't expecting me to speak Bulgarian because, well, we're in the Netherlands, but you never know who is listening, so you better be careful with your words. My favorite thing on this planet is when someone talks shit about me in my presence, but in a language they don't know I understand. It is so satisfying to see the horror on their faces when you reply in that language. Just never underestimate people, because who knows, they might be polyglots. I remember it was my second shift at work, and honestly, I don't remember if I have shared this story with you, but if I have, oh well, that's a nice little recap for you. So I was at work, and it was my second shift, and naturally, I don't work as fast as someone who's been there for months or years, and it got busy. And I asked one of my colleagues for help because she was just sitting in the back scrolling on her phone, and she started huffing and puffing, and she told her friend, and she also told it in front of the customers as well, how I'm so annoying because I work so freaking slow. But she said it in Dutch, thinking that I cannot understand her. Now the thing is, I may not be able to respond in Dutch yet, but I am very likely to be able to understand you. Shout out to my German knowledge and the lack of it nowadays. But I know enough to know when you're talking shit about me. So was this entire scene that girl did necessary? Absolutely not. And I really wish I wasn't as scared to speak in Dutch, because I definitely could have said something, but I didn't want to step on anybody's toes because it was still just my second shift. But honestly, who cares? I I literally shouldn't have let a 16-year-old disrespect me like this and do it in front of so many people because the place was packed. Like, bestie, just shut up. Think it. Say it to me privately. Nobody's stopping you. But no need to make an entire PSA about how slow I'm working while I'm still being taught how to do my work. So yeah, guys, that's the story I have been thinking about telling you for a month. I think it's a hilarious interaction. And the lesson is, if you're going to talk about someone while they're there in the room with you, make sure first that they don't speak the language you do. Just, if you're going to talk shit, make it classy. That's the least you could do. Oh, just a little quick update on what I'm watching before I go watch another episode. I recently started watching Arrested Development on Netflix, and I wasn't too sure about the show based off the first 2 to 3 episodes, but now I'm really hooked on it, if I'm being honest. It is, first of all, extremely weird to see Michael Cera like a child. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The thing is that I mainly have time to watch in the evenings because I'm working during the days. So I played right before bed and I always end up falling asleep from exhaustion midway through the 20-minute episode. And it keeps on streaming in the meantime. So I sometimes fake watch, or like more nicely put, sleep through like 6 or 7 episodes in a row until my laptop's battery dies. And the next day, I have to go back and replay all of them. That's what happened when I was watching Sex and the City as well. It is actually when that tendency of mine started with Sex and the City, because sue me, but the first few seasons I didn't find necessarily interesting, so I would just play it in the background while I'm in bed and trying to fall asleep. So I fully did this on myself. My friend joked that I'm not watching Sex and the City, but unconsciously listening to it. And I see no lies. By the way, I did get into Sex and the City and I did enjoy the last few seasons, but like it took more getting used to than usual. But yeah, I just like, since watching it, I started to need something to run in the background for me to fall asleep. And that is so weird and so untypical of me, because when I was a child, for instance, and someone was reading me a story before bed, I would never fall asleep because I'd always want to hear the ending. So I would need complete silence, first of all, to fall asleep. But like also, if someone was talking to me or I was watching something, I was too invested and would not let it go until it's done. That's why they chose shorter stories to read to me, which I think is hilarious. But I guess now that I'm basically old, I cannot keep up with my previous behaviors anymore. My problem is that I think I have Pavlov dogged myself. And what I mean is that I have a hard time falling asleep if something isn't playing in the background now. And I don't like this, so I need to work on it. And I just don't know, like, how do you even unlearn this? I don't know, but I will figure it out. In the meantime, I will go watch another episode or two, and maybe I will fall asleep, and maybe we'll fix my sleep schedule. Who knows? But I'll go watch another episode or two of Arrested Development while I'm still awake. So thank you for listening to today's episode, and I will see you in the next one. Stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye!